Call the meeting to order and ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Seconded.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Consideration of minutes from the July 18th DRB meeting. Any amendments to the minutes?
I think under good of the order shows that Ramey said he'd be absent from the November design review meeting. I think that was you.
That was me.
Oh.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I hope that you'll be here.
I am
Good.
on track.
And I have
Guarantees.
one other thing on page 5 at the end of item 5. Move to approve the stairway addition as presented. I think it was conditioned on a review of stair lighting by staff. Should be included. Okay, anything else? Have a motion to approve the amended minutes.
So moved.
Seconded.
Those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Public comment. Non-hearing items only. If you'd like to speak during a public hearing agenda item, your comments will be considered during that public hearing portion of the meeting. And the public hearing item is considered. Does anybody have any non-specific public comment? We have anybody online?
No.
Okay. All right. Moving on then, DRB 2418. Quasi judicial hearing regarding Peljo on behalf of Breakers Point Condo Association. Replace 325 linear feet of wooden walkway with a concrete walkway. Subject property is located between West Fifth and North Larch Street in a residential high-density zone. Application will be considered against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 17. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Design Review Board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she is a conflict of interest, personal bias? Any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
Site visit.
I did a site visit. Okay, staff report, please.
Good evening. The project is the replacement of existing wooden walkways at the Breakers Point condominiums with concrete walkways. This is due to the age and condition of the existing walks. The application was submitted in 2 parts. Exhibit A1 addresses walkways adjacent to buildings 20, 30, 50, and 75. And A4 addresses walkways adjacent to buildings 35, 45, 55, and 65. No changes to the overall site plan are proposed as part of this walkway replacement project. The approval criteria are in Design Review Standard 1744, specifically 1744-100, the landscape design evaluation criteria. The staff comment is that the subject property consists of an approximately 208,000 square foot lot that has been developed with multiple high-density residential structures. These structures and their off-street parking areas are connected to each other and with 2 beach accesses by a network of hard surface walkways. No changes to landscaping other than the use of materials in these walkways are proposed as part of this application. No vegetation or trees will be removed. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Is there any additional correspondence?
No.
Okay. Okay, we'll call for public testimony. Pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff report and listed on the criteria sheets posted on the meeting page, the city's website. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or municipal code, which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to issue precludes appeal based on that issue. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. The Design Review Board will grant such requests by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written testimony, arguments, or evidence. Persons who testify shall first receive recognition from the chair, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing as a representative, identify whom they represent. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Yes.
Please do it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Tom Keljo. My mailing address is 5615 Southeast Scenic Lane, number 206, Vancouver, Washington, 98661. And I'm an owner at Breakers Point. I put together this application for the placement of 500 feet of wooden walkway that was put into use in probably 1980 when the buildings were built. And as you can imagine, the wooden walkway after 40 some years, it is to the point where it's at the end of life. Afterwards, it's been replaced on a regular basis. And from the pictures, you can see it doesn't have the best look to it. And recently, the substructure has been rotting in addition to the cords, so it gives a nice bouncy effect to the walkway, which is not really very safe. And the reasons we want to make the switch to concrete are it's lower initial cost than wood, lower maintenance than wood. We have other walkways that are exposed aggregate concrete in the complex. After 40 some years, those walkways are still in excellent shape. The concrete walkways will be longer life than wood. There is an advantage from a safety standpoint also. Existing wooden walkways when it's wet, which is quite often in this location, can become slippery. There will be more uniformity of the appearance of the walkways. After we make the switch, almost all the walkways will be concrete. And the walkways we're putting in are designed to match the look of the existing exposed aggregate walkways. On that, we'll be conserving natural sources, saving many trees by making the switch to concrete instead of wood. Reasons to approve this change. Right? Questions?
I was out there yesterday nosing around, and a couple of people I talked to said that there was going to be a part A and a part B to your, can you tell me what that is?
Okay. Robert mentioned that we originally put in the 327 feet. Anybody look at our reserve fund, really could go ahead and do the entire replacement. So we added an addendum. So there's a request and an addendum. And the total is roughly 500 feet, 500 lineal feet.
That addendum?
Yeah, there's
Exhibit A4 that has been provided in the packet.
just page 9. So there's two site plans. One shows the original, which is kind of on the middle west part of the site, and then the added portion is on the southeast part of the site on page 9. So there's a couple of site plan maps. I don't know if we need to dig those up. We can up the screen.
Oh, okay. Right,
That makes sense? Or should we put that up on the screen?
I'm fine with it. Another question I had was the, call a platform, I guess, at the junction point between. Right now, it's kind of elevated on more like a deck. What is,
It'll be at the same level as the wooden deck. It's like 20, higher point is 24 inches off the ground. We'll be duplicating that same design, size and height in concrete.
it'll be solid concrete?
Walls are elevated just around the side
You know,
where it slopes off. Be the same level, same size.
It'll be a solid block of concrete.
okay,
Are you planning to remove all the posts, the wooden posts and the the handrails along the,
We're gonna leave the railings, wooden railings. The walkway will go in between the existing wooden railings.
and the posts as well?
There are some posts, the posts for the railings will remain. There are some posts that were just kind of decorative and they're falling apart. So those will be removed, the ones that don't serve a function.
And what about the benches? I saw
There's one bench where we'll replace that bench.
the wooden bench.
It'll be a wooden bench.
So the railings are embedded in the ground? The railing.
The railings are on round wooden posts. They're like 2x4 wooden railings.
The posts are like
The posts
in the ground
in the ground, yes.
and they're not rotting.
No. Some of them, we have some issues. We'll replace those later, but they're in good shape.
Will you be painting the edges of the walkway yellow? Joe, in your photographs, and I'm not sure. It seemed like there's a lot of yellow that needs to be repainted on your wooden walkway right now. For the stairs.
Planned on that. There will
Be
be.
a necessary need for yellow markers on some of those concrete stairs, as you do with the wooden stairs.
I know. Some of the wooden stairs down to the buildings have the yellow painted on, but.
Well, most of your exhibit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all of them. A lot of them are worn off from when I did a site visit, but your photographs show, I don't know if it was drawn in there or what.
We can sure look at that and I don't know what's needed. It would be a little different on exposed aggregate rather than wood.
Tom, this does not address the walkway and railings north of Fifth, nor the walkway going out along the Fifth Street beach access.
Yeah, we'll be looking at the future, but that's elevated. Planning on having a designed and engineered that's elevated to the point.
Yeah, it's a fairly large stairway. So
Yeah, it's about 30 inches, so we'll have to look at the railings, so that'll be another phase later on. We'll be looking at.
I didn't see it. Excuse me.
I was gonna say that, we looked at that and that would not really work well with concrete. North of Fifth Street, the walkway you're talking about.
Yeah.
So we'll come back at some later point.
And am I misunderstanding? Is everything you're replacing highlighted in red here, or are there other?
Okay, it's highlighted, right? Yeah.
So some of the walkways that go to individual units that are wood, those will remain.
Mostly stairs down, I think, pretty much south of Fifth. Have all the wooden walkways, some areas are concrete.
I think that you're building that,
The upper.
that's an upper level's concrete.
Lower level of concrete, and you have steps down.
Yeah.
And then you have a wooden walkway, so we're just replacing the wooden walkway section there, so it'll be all concrete.
Got it.
Other than the steps.
How long has it been since the decking has been replaced?
Decking on the buildings.
No, on the walkway, current walkway.
Oh, never has been replaced totally, but a board here and a board there. And the substructure now is a real problem. Substructure is rotting, so it is real spongy. Needs to be totally torn out and replaced.
Did you consider using pressure treated posts and then the modern decking?
That's really expensive when you're looking at 500 lineal feet. Probably gonna be more than double the cost. Finding out again that the concrete walkways, the ones that were put in initially in 1980, are still in good shape. So I think it's something we won't have to be replacing deck boards like we have them now.
It looks like this might be going across sort of a dune area. Is that true or not? A dune area? No,
No,
not at all.
that's lawn, grass, landscaping.
Okay, thank you
Uh,
for presentation by any other proponents.
Thank you.
Not a presentation, but a public comment. My name is Bill Dugovich. I'm a resident at Breakers Point, 753 North Breakers Point Drive, PO Box 1122, Cannon Beach. I am a board member at Breakers Point, with a fellow board member, Paula Ramsey, and several interested parties who are residents of our complex. I'm speaking in favor of the project. I can tell you that our board looked at this for probably 2 years on what would be the best way to proceed, whether we replace the wood with wood or we go to concrete. And every analysis showed that safety-wise, cost-wise, and appearance-wise, the concrete was the way for us to go. So we're really hopeful of a positive decision from you folks so that we can proceed with this project and have a nice new walkway through Breakers Point.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Presentation by any opponents? Yes, Jan.
On Seabrook Orman, PO Box 778. I just wanted to put in a good word for wood. And I would love if you could somehow find a way to, keep the wood, but I don't know what your preference is on your board, but I just think the wood is beautiful, aesthetically more like Cannon Beach. And I think safe, it's been safe there for years. So just a good word for wood. Possible.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? Okay, any presentation, or is there any staff response? No. Does the applicant or proponent wish to make any additional statement?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll close the public hearing and move into consideration phase. Like we're only looking at the landscape design, which is kind of a misnomer, but it doesn't really fit any other description either. What do you think?
Well, going down our criteria, at the top of the list is the design substantially complements the natural environment of Cannon Beach and the character of the site. And I might say that to me, that wooden boardwalk is very characteristic of the beach, of the dunes of that area. I don't know what the median age is at Breakers, but it seems like if you were to trip and fall on concrete, that it might be worse than wood. Leaving the railings and the posts. I'm not quite sure. It seems like it's only 3/4 of the job maybe that needs to be done for replacement and upgrade. I didn't find the boardwalk squishy. I found a couple of boards that might have not been secured slightly. And then there was a platform. I don't know if there's a rabbit hatch going on, but some meshing there that looked like maybe it was keeping some rabbits out, which I don't know. People have different ideas about rabbits. I find them very cute and fun to have around. We can go down the criteria. The design harmonizes and enhances the architectural design. The buildings are all wood. It's been boardwalked. Provisions have been made for the survival and continuous maintenance. I don't know why maybe the boardwalk has been left to go until it has reached this point at this moment, totally replaced. That get us started?
I guess I would observe that the commercial buildings all over Cannon Beach exposed aggregate is way more of the design standard than using treated wood. And having, I come up through the beach frequently through Breakers Point, and I can tell you, I've seen lots and lots of maintenance done over the years, and it's got to be a constant headache. And, you know, I am aware that they have significant amounts of existing exposed aggregate there. So I'm pretty sympathetic to the idea of using exposed aggregate as a superior material and one that's consistent with commercial properties all over Cannon Beach. Certainly, the city's not going to use any wooden boardwalks in its new projects, and would think that would be the ultimate double standard if we suggested that they should.
Well, this is residential. It's not commercial. And we have streets and we have sidewalks that are usual for a city. This is a residential area that has historically had wooden boardwalks, which is a very beachy look. And it's been part of Breakers for decades.
I'm not sure for this long of a walkway if the city might not wind up using a boardwalk. And modern materials just don't require that kind of maintenance. I have 40-year-old installations that are just fine. But previous to that, the kind of decking they had, the kind of reinforcing they had, it doesn't hold up. That's right. Modern stuff holds up.
You know, it's basically a dune there. So, I mean, it seems like the ground would shift with concrete, and a hard surface like that might be more susceptible to crackage, breaking, becoming uneven. Especially with the elements. Rain. Maybe freezing.
I had a couple of questions for the presenter. Is that possible to ask some more questions?
Fine with me.
Probably have to open the hearing. We closed the hearing, so we'd probably have to make a motion to open it to allow that to occur.
I move we reopen the hearing.
Second,
Okay,
A couple of questions. Is this going to be cast in place or is it precast that you're a pre-stressed concrete you're bringing in?
It'll be cast in place,
Cast in place.
wooden forms.
Okay. And I didn't see any, usually when we see a piece of concrete, we see how the rebar is going to look inside, but I didn't see any design for that.
So I included photos. We're gonna match the existing exposed aggregate concrete as closely as possible.
And
There's
what's,
photos of the existing there.
those look like perhaps precast. They weren't. Okay.
Actually, the concrete person has said on the sand, it's really a better base to have the concrete. We don't have any cracking or shifting or settling in the 40-year-old concrete walkways that we have. It's a better material for where we are on the sand.
That's not my experience, but
But we have
he's a concrete guy.
walk, that's what he does. And I've walked our entire complex. I have not seen one crack.
What is he recommending for reinforcement?
Rebar, there'll be rebar reinforcement. And there are 4 inches of gravel underneath. And he felt really it was an advantage with the sand that didn't need to install more than 4 inches of gravel.
And there won't be any foundation walls. It'll go, no, entire piece of concrete is gonna go all the way to the.
It goes on the sand, the
All the way
walkway
to the
is
sand.
elevated is, and they'll have to lift that up with gravel is one platform that we have in the center of the web, in the center of the complex.
You're changing the grading of the dune? Is that what's gonna need to happen to put the 4 inches of gravel and then the, I don't know, 2 inches of concrete?
This is not, it doesn't have anything to do with the dune, not on the dune. It'll be replaced, the concrete walkway will be just where the wood walkway is now. It'll be on.
Not sand underneath that?
There's sand underneath it, we'll add gravel, we'll add concrete. It's definitely a landscaped area, it's not in the dune.
It used to be a dune.
It's the same location where the walkways have been for 40 years.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just trying to understand, so they're gonna scoop out a bunch of the dirt and the wood to lay 4 inches of gravel, and then what's the concrete, like 2 inches?
No, 4 inches.
So 4 inches of concrete, 4 inches of gravel. How does that affect the grade if you're gonna keep it right where the wood is level with the
Maintain it.
grass?
And where you show steps that are
Where the wood steps will replace, there'll be concrete steps.
2 feet or more above grade, you'll just, it'll be solid.
I'm sorry.
Pictures look like they're probably more than 2 feet above grade, some of the stairways. Maybe not.
There's actually different segments, and usually they go up about two steps at a time
Mhm.
up the hill.
So that'll be solid concrete.
Concrete steps will be, yes.
You know what the weight of all that is? That's-
a lot of wheelbarrow loads of concrete. You're not gonna drive a truck back there, are you?
And there are
Concrete truck.
driveways along the streets where we are too, along Fifth Street.
Sure.
Oh, thank you.
You want to close the hearing again?
Yeah, let's close the hearing again. I can see both sides of this issue. I guess I can't come up with a real strong reason not let them use the concrete.
To me, it's a superior material.
Yeah,
Once again, the design substantially complements the natural environment of Cannon Beach and the character of the site. Concrete, to me, does not complement the natural environment of Cannon Beach or the site in the dunes.
They have concrete there now.
They have concrete in some areas, yes. I'm not sure when that was done.
I think in probably 1980 or 81,
And the wooden walkways have been there since,
80 or 81.
how did they determine where concrete would be versus?
I
So
I have
I,
no idea, but I think the high wear areas were concrete.
They probably thought it was more attractive too. Do they have, is there as much as 500 feet of walkway that is in concrete now?
No. I would guess it's
no, it just looked like little
100, yeah.
areas.
Somewhere.
Areas.
Yeah, I think when the Parks Departments do anything, they love to put the wood down, the wood look at least, so. It's,
Yeah, I would probably be more agreeable to something that looked like wood. If the whole goal is to have it be material that lasts for another 40, 50 years. I think the look is really important. I'm concerned about all the grading. That, 4 inches of gravel, 4 inches of concrete, and the wood is level on that.
Well, there's probably at least a 4x8 stringer underneath the sidewalk right now. So my guess is,
The wooden walkway?
yeah, that's what supports it is probably 4x8 stringers.
We haven't heard that.
but they're not in the ground.
They're not in the ground. They're probably, I'm guessing they're attached to those posts or otherwise.
Yeah, they're attached to something.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, maybe the other thing is that you've got this sidewalk, basically, wouldn't even call it a walkway anymore, but a sidewalk with 2x4 hand railings and then posts periodically with lights, which I'm assuming will be,
That part's unchanged.
right. Think that they might want to put railings. I mean, it's concern is wood rotting. It seems like it would make sense since they're doing this whole project that the railings would be replaced, or I'm not sure how you grade like that without damaging the railings.
Or even putting a footing in, putting the, before you put the concrete, before you're gonna cast it in place.
The rebar, and I mean, I don't see how that's not going to be disturbed.
Yeah, it seems like it'll be in the way of his forms when he's trying to put. Hard, I imagine it will last a long time and it'll be cheap. It's just that
It's not always
so much more pleasant to look at.
If you look at it from a safety perspective, certainly exposed aggregate is much safer than,
Not current, not modern decking. They're about the same.
well, exposed aggregate has way more tread than any wood decking or synthetic decking. Are you arguing for synthetic?
Sure. Most of the synthetic decking wood fiber. Just heavy on the plastic.
Mhm.
And it'll just last forever, and you can get them in all kinds of treads, so they're gonna be as good as exposed aggregate. I think that's safety wise, probably similar.
I've had a couple of decks made out of, not Trex, but similar materials, and they get quite slippery when they're wet.
My decks
And it
are all,
does
are all,
rain here occasionally.
my decks are all that too, but I've selected ones that have really good tread,
Yeah.
so. Yeah, they were slippery in the ice, so.
You know, and I guess I would ask another question is how would a new board from Breakers look at concrete sidewalks? Or would they have wished that there would have been the classic beach look of a wooden sidewalk? You know, I'm making a decision right now to do something that I feel changes the character of that area. And it just urbanizes it, if I dare say, since commercial reference.
On the plus,
More concrete just is not beachy to me.
the plus side, it's all inside the complex. Well, it's not gonna be, the public's not gonna be seeing it all the time.
Well, it's a public access. You
Oh, yeah.
can walk up there and
A tough one.
Got a note from Michelle that she was definitely opposed to making the change, but since she's not here, she doesn't get to vote.
What does she favor? What does Michelle favor?
She's a definite no from her.
On the concrete?
Yeah. But like I said, she's not here, so she can't vote.
but we do on a tie vote.
I guess we'll see what happens and I'll answer that question in a few minutes.
Okay, well,
Okay, well, we probably discussed this enough to know what we want to do, so.
there a motion to approve the design.
I would move to approve the design.
Any second?
I'll second so we can go for it.
Okay. You would second? Okay, those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, 3-1, the motion passes.
I thought it was
Was it 2-2?
2-2.
Two,
You didn't vote yes?
I voted no. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for the vote. I put my hand up too soon.
Okay, so it's 2-2. What do we do?
At this point in time, I guess there could be another motion to see what happens the other way. And then if we end up tie again, I would probably suggest maybe a continuance so we can get a fifth member to break the tie. Because otherwise neither motion, you may want to go through another motion just to make sure that it is 2-2 because one motion's tied. So you may want to do another one.
It will be 2-2.
It doesn't matter if it will be, we need to have it.
Is there another motion?
I make a motion to deny the application as presented with concrete walkways and stairs and platforms.
Based on,
Based on our criteria, A, B, D, H, J, L.
Okay. Those in favor?
Yes,
Opposed? I'll abstain from that one.
Then that motion would pass.
is passed.
So,
All right, so the motion passed. So the application was denied.
Moving on. Before 21. On the judicial hearing regarding Jay Orloff on behalf of Drumheller Properties, application for replacement and repair of upper floor deck. Subject property located at 132 North Arch Street in a residential high-density R3 zone. Application will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 16.44. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of Design Review Board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias? Does any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit? I did a site visit. Staff report, please.
Yes, the proposed project is a replacement of an upper floor waterproof deck at Sea Lark Apartments. And I will bring the photo of one of the two decks. Proposed for modification. Additional work will include repairs on a second deck in order to make it match the new construction and replacement of board and batten siding on the south and western walls of the project area. No changes to site layout or landscaping are approved as part of this application. The proposed deck that is, the current deck that is proposed to be replaced is shown in the photo on the screen. The approval criteria are detailed in chapter 1744 of the municipal code, specifically 1744-090, the architectural design criteria. The staff comment is that the proposed replacement deck will be in the same location and be of the same size as the deck currently in place. The replacement will use new 6x6 posts and a new 36-inch high wooden railing. The new deck will be waterproof as it is located above garages. A second existing deck, which I'll bring up a photo of here. Just a moment. A second existing deck will be improved to match the new construction, and the new board and batten siding will be installed on the south and eastern walls, which will be a like-for-like replacement for the existing siding. No changes to exterior lighting are proposed as part of this application. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Okay. Call for public testimony and statements. I'm not gonna repeat all of this stuff again. I get tired of saying it. But persons who testify will first receive a recognition from the chair, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing as a representative, identify whom they represent. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Jay Orloff, Goldbahn Design, PO Box 563, representing from Drumheller Properties. Main deck that we're looking to replace. We're looking to do a direct replacement of an existing deck. Shown on your monitors. This structure was built in 1978, 46 years old. It's reaching its lifespan. We are looking to replace to match the previously replaced deck to the west, which was the smaller one that Robert has shown. This existing structure is using has peeled logs. It is a waterproof deck as well. We're looking to switch out the peeled logs to 6x6 PT and then doing a combination of board and batten and cedar railing as shown in the second image, Robert, if you could. I did try to do a record search for when this was done. I was unable to find anything on it. I was hoping to have some information for you in regards to the process that was gone. But as you can see, we have 6x6 corner posts, 6x6 posts for structure support, the board batten, and then cedar baluster and guardrail above. Again, we're looking to match this to the old as a direct replacement. There will be no changes in size or structure other than what we need to repair within the walls itself.
Design stays the same on that little top railing.
Yeah, we're gonna match that exactly. So that way we have continuous between both decks. I wish I was able to find some information for you on this one, but that is exactly what the new deck will look like.
I think that's where Steve McLeod used to live.
It's a drum. I was a header for a long time, so I did a full record search and couldn't find anything on it. Unfortunately, I was hoping to find something from DRB or planning or any documents itself, and there's absolutely nothing. So, and that's probably on the lack of records keeping. I would figure this was probably done, 15 years ago or so. I've been upstairs in this building. I know what it looks like up there, and unfortunately, we don't have those documents from that time frame. I'm open to any other questions you might have.
What is the material of the flooring and the waterproofing?
The TPO, we have to look at what the membrane looks like, but I assume that we'll probably have to replace the TPO membrane as we're going to have to flash it up against the new railing guard. So that will get replaced, but talking with Coastal Construction, the joists, the decking that is underneath the TPO probably will not need to be replaced. So we're not looking to tear off the entire waterproof deck, but just, look at the railing, make sure it seals properly and get some new duct boards on top there. And the duct boards we're not seeing whether they are a cedar system or a new material, such as. But that is all in the printing, so that's not visually seen. Any other questions? Thank you for your time and consideration.
Any other proponents? Presentation by any opponents? Okay, any staff response?
No.
So guess we'll close the hearing.
Well, this seems to be a pretty easy one for me. Make a motion unless there's some discussion, gentlemen.
Are we ready to move?
Ready, Tim?
Yes.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the application. Where'd it go?
2421.
2421, thank you. As presented.
Second,
Second.
favor,
Yes.
any opposed? Moving on to DRB. Judicial hearing regarding Glenn Miller on behalf of Cannon Beach Conference. Application to alter landscaping. The property is located at 100 East Third Street in a residential RM zone. The application will be considered against the criteria of municipal chapter 16.44. Does anyone object? Section of the design review to hear this matter at this time? Any commission member believe he is or a personal bias? Has any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
Site visit.
Okay, a staff report, please.
Thank you. The proposed project consists of landscaping improvements at the Pacific View building of the Cannon Beach Conference Center. The applicant seeks to remove existing plantings that are described as overgrown and replace them with new plantings that are intended to enhance the overall appearance of the building. The approval criteria are in Design Review Standards, Chapter 1744 Municipal Code, specifically 1744-100 Landscape Design Evaluation Criteria. And the staff comment is that application materials indicate that planter beds along the perimeter of the building and the street frontage facing the intersection of bird and spruce will be enhanced by this project. Currently, these areas are occupied primarily by hedges that are approximately 3 to 4 feet above grade, with plantings closest to the intersection kept short in order to preserve clear vision for motorists. Exhibit A2 identifies the location of 8 planting beds and specifies the types of plants for each. These include a variety of shrubs, flowering plants, and various other ground covers. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Glenn Miller, representing the Cannon Beach Conference Center, PO Box 943, Cannon Beach. Thank you for considering our application. Most of the landscaping around that building was installed about 25 years ago when the building was built and has become overgrown and really fresh. There are also some areas around the building that were never landscaped, and new landscaping would be installed to enhance the appearance of the building. The hedge along Spruce and 3rd Street is also overgrown. It's reaching 4 to 5 feet, which restricts some of the view of around that corner. And several of the plants that are in that hedge are dead and need to be replaced. When we looked at the plan, we chose a variety of plants, looking for plants that were commonly found around the Cannon Beach area, and also looked at a combination of plants that offer a variety of colors, textures, and sizes to give the layered look to the landscaping rather than monotonous same height landscaping all the way through. Any questions?
I think it's a great plan. But a couple questions would be that, are you planning to amend the soil or repair the irrigation system?
Yes, we've had a volunteer already start to work on some of the irrigation system to make sure we have good irrigation. And the plan is to add some compost materials to the garden beds to enhance as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And any consideration given to any of the elk that might be coming through town on some of your plantings?
That came up, trying to figure out ways that we can eliminate them from removing the plants as quickly as we planted them. So we chose some plants that are a little more resistant for the elk and deer. Though I don't know that any plant around is resistant to them. So yeah, that was a consideration when we were choosing plants.
And then it looks like some of your areas are pretty close to the ocean front, and wind and salt has been considered. I'm just trying to think about the survivability of all these nice plants that you're going to put time and effort and money into, and to see it succeed. And
yeah, we consulted with a volunteer landscaper about some of the plants that we chose to make sure that they would survive in that in that environment.
Great, thank you.
So there's really not been a professional landscape design.
But no,
Thank God.
we've consulted with a landscape designer on some of it, but then we have another volunteer that has done a lot of not professional landscaping, but other landscaping that has helped with it.
Got some drawings in here.
Presentation by any other proponents? Presentation by opponents? Staff response? Okay. Does the applicant or proponent wish to make an additional statement? Okay. Guess we can close that public hearing for consideration. Concerned?
It looks good to me.
Ready for emotion then?
Tim, we,
I was happy with it.
and I move that we approve the application as presented.
Second,
Any further discussion? Those in favor?
yes,
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. So this will be was a judicial hearing regarding a continuation of DRB 2417. Farzad Farahani on behalf of MJ Najimi. Application to build a duplex. Subject property located in an undeveloped lot on North Larch Street. Residential medium density R2 zone. Application will be reviewed against the criteria Municipal Code Chapter 16.44. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Design Review Board through this matter at this time? Member believe he or she has conflict of interest or personal bias? Has any commission member made ex parte contacts or made a
Site visit.
staff report, please?
Yes, this is a brief addendum to the staff report that was introduced on July 18th. The proposed project is the development of a vacant lot located between 540 and 556 North Larch Street with a 2,954 square foot duplex. The subject property is zoned residential medium density R2, and a duplex is a permitted use in that zone. As stated previously, the initial evidentiary hearing was on July 18th of this year and continued in order for the applicant to provide additional information. At the time of writing the staff report, no new information had been received. However, 3 exhibits have been received. One of those, Exhibit A6, is a property survey. Exhibit A7 is landscaping information, and Exhibit A8 is a set of plans that were received business today, and paper copies of those have been provided to the board members. Additionally, we have received 3 public comments. 2 of those were from Rex and Diane Amos on July 31st. And the 4th of those was Exhibit B4, which was received from Jeff Harrison today, August 15th. And that concludes this.
Thank you. Additional well, you already talked about the correspondence, so.
Yeah, besides the stuff that Robert mentioned, that was all of the packets that you had received prior to the meeting.
Yes. Okay. Call for public testimony. Usual caveat supply. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Yes. And Richard Vasquez representing MJ Najimi. 1231 Southeast Bush, Portland, Oregon 97202.
That's something different from what we got earlier.
Is that the same information that was passed out in the correspondence packets?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, because I printed what you sent me at about 4:45.
Yeah, I just wanted to have larger copies.
all right, all right.
Okay. Okay, I think the last time we spoke, we're looking at concerns about the toe slope on the west end of the property. We've since consulted an engineer and an architect about putting up a retaining wall. 7. We also have reworked the landscaping a little bit and provided the Latin and scientific names for each of the plants that were in question last. And we also consulted several meetings about how they're gonna work on the coast with the sea, water and elk and stuff like
Not seeing a plan that shows the landscaping.
that. On page 7, there's placement and description.
Yeah. It's this one. It's really tiny.
Could send an email with color photos. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we got that.
Would you like them to bring up?
Yeah.
Hey Tessa, can you pass those larger copies so Dave can get a copy so he can see it better?
Yeah.
Anybody else want a larger copy?
Sure.
Is bigger. retaining wall, is that on lot line?
The rest of.
Is it on the lot?
Oh, no, it's actually. 5 feet off.
Okay,
The setback from the house is 15 to the property line. And that's set 10 feet back from the, so yeah, 5 feet off the lot.
there was some question about the front setback. Has that been resolved?
With the survey that's in there, the minimum required is 15 feet, and that's what they're showing.
Is that the same footprint, even though that the right of way takes the property line not from the street line, but
It's from the streets 15 feet and then another 15 feet. Back, so it's 30 feet off the street.
it's the same footprint, square footage?
Yeah.
Meets the.
Yeah, nothing changed.
I'm not exactly sure what Mr. Vasquez is talking about, but the survey shows it from the property lines that it's from 15 feet,
Yeah,
the property line. So
yeah, basically the 15 feet to the property line, then from there, 15 foot back from that monument. Where the. Property stuff.
This concrete wall. The thickness is to be determined, is there any sort of? They're gonna be 3 inches, is
It's
it
gonna,
gonna be
it's
3 feet?
likely gonna be 8 inches wide. And then we'll most likely have I believe it's a 16-inch footing. But once again, that'll be determined by the geotech and the engineer when it's designed.
So is there a geotech report somewhere?
There's only a survey. I didn't know if the geotech should be brought in beforehand. Have that done.
You're planning to dig into that slope?
Yeah, it'll be just back into the first few feet of it. The slope starts couple feet, maybe a foot or two after the edge of the house. So basically in the back, and then you need your 15 feet. So that 15 feet is where the slope pretty much starts. So that's why the retaining wall will be 10 feet off the house.
And will you excavate to flat in that 10-foot?
Well, it'll be to what the average grade is for the 4 corners of the house, which is marked on the survey.
Okay.
So the front will be a little, well, in appearance will be higher, and the back will level it out.
The survey plot shows a couple of trees back there. Which are not on the landscape plan. Are those going to be retained or?
No, they're in horrible condition. I consulted Dylan Saito, who is city arborist of Portland, who's a friend of mine. He came out, took a look, took some pictures, and I don't know what the process would be if we'd have to file for a permit previous to, but they would be removed. They're, one of them's dead and the other one is completely engulfed in ivy and essentially being choked up. So what we'd like to do is remove those and, put the retaining wall in place. And that should secure that whole back edge. Buttress that back.
No, do they need a tree permit?
There would be tree removal permits. So that typically comes in at the time building permits are submitted. And then that is reviewed with the city arborist and then make a decision from there.
I guess I'm wondering when you start talking about digging into that slope, you know, in a geotech report, if that's something that planning commission needs to look at, because I don't know how to read that as far as you're gonna put a retaining wall up there and is that gonna be sufficient and how we can make a decision without planning commission input.
With regards to the geotech, typically what gets in is it gets submitted to the building inspector and they take a look at that at the time of building permit. So that is something that gets looked at that time.
Okay.
Staff reviews it.
That's correct.
And would you require this to be a licensed professional structural engineer that designed this,
The geotech report,
that designed the retaining wall?
the building inspector is going to review the plans for the retaining walls. So as long as he's getting the information that he needs from someone who can do it, yeah, he'll look at that.
Regarding a geotechnical report, we do require that to be provided by a licensed engineering geologist. So it's not just anybody off the street writes a memo. It is a certified professional that produces that.
Yeah, but
That'll be
to design the,
Building permit?
to design the,
Building permit, yes.
to design the retaining wall itself.
I can answer that. We'll have an architect design the wall. And then the architect will pass that design on to an engineer. Because the wall is over 4 feet, it will have to be engineered. And then we'll submit those for permitting.
So that will go to the city and then the city will make sure that it's,
Structural.
Building inspector reviews that at that time.
that is the right kind of engineer.
Yes.
Stormwater handling, how are you gonna, what is your plan for that?
The stormwater will be off of the, I'm not sure if it's indicated on the drawing on the first page. Behind the city's stormwater system.
No.
Very first.
Natural drainage ditch or on-site dry well.
So this exhibit D2. Is that,
That is the neighbors, and I believe is that Lexi?
D2 would be Rex and Diane Amos's comment, yes.
They're the next, they're to the north.
so what are we looking at there with that?
That's their back retaining wall. Of their property, which will. What their concern was, and I spoke with them. Their concern was, will that affect their wall? Now, their back wall is retaining wall that runs across the north and south on the west back edge. And then they have a return that comes east about, I think 15 feet. And their concern is that we don't disturb or their wall, which we will not. And that's the return right there.
Are they to the?
They're to the north.
south? They're to the north, yeah.
We own the property to the south. 540. So you see that property marker, the monument in the very back corner of that retaining wall. We're gonna be 5 foot east of that with our retaining wall. So you can kind of see the height there is about 5 feet.
Stormwater handling,
Sorry, what?
stormwater handling,
Stormwater handling, I think there's some information on that first page right next to the bottom drawing. And it's gonna be tying into the city's, this nearest storm drain. And,
oh, so there's a city storm drain there.
I believe there's a storm drain down the street, but we'll be tying into the, I believe we have the proper coverage for drainage.
Yeah, you know, again, I don't know right offhand if there's storm in there. I'm assuming so, but again, when we get building plans, planning looks at it, building looks at it, and then public works for that storm drainage to make sure that it's all tied in. So that is part of that review process.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of storm drains in the city here.
We got a public works department that handles all the different homes throughout the city. So Trevor will take a look at that. And he'll have to, and they won't sign off on it until it's meeting the specific public works requirements.
Have any other?
Me.
Thank you. Is there a presentation by any other proponents?
I had one other question. There was an issue from one of the neighbors for lot coverage.
That was addressed at the last meeting.
I'd like to hear,
We're within it. We're at lot coverage.
Yeah, the lot coverage calculations, I believe were on your original staff report.
it meets the standard.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any,
Good time.
any other proponents? Presentation by any opponents? Yes.
Good evening, my name is Bill Morgan and my mailing address is 18155 Southwest Cramian. It's spelled K-R-A-M as in Mary, I-E-N as in Nancy. Newburgh, 97132. My brother Jim Morton and I own a lot immediately behind the lot we're talking about. It's 8,700, I believe it's the last four digits on the tax lot. And that's on that's northeast, that's North Laurel. Right. Fine. It's an empty lot. And we own the lot immediately to the north of that. And that's where our little cabin is. I'm looking at this drawing right here, the surveyor's plan. And we have a couple of concerns, but the biggest concern is the retaining wall. And when you look at on this drawing, if you look at the southwest corner, which is the lower left on that drawing, you'll see that the surveyor's marker is labeled at 32.95 feet above sea level. And then if you look at the corner of the house, well, a better way of looking at it is the average elevation of the property that the house is on is 20.64. It's on this map. It's on this drawing right here. So you add up all these dimensions and it comes out 20.64. So the difference in elevation from the average elevation of the flat part of the lot up to where the toe is, and then the hill climbs from there. The difference in that is about 20. It's about 10 feet. Yeah. 12 feet. It's about 12 feet difference. So it's a pretty rapid increase. Now, this is at the southwest corner. Northwest corner is much lower. You'll see on the northwest corner, it's 25.47 feet. So you have to sort of visualize, if you're standing in front of this house, I'm standing on Larch Street looking at it. The left corner is up here of the topography of the land, and then it slopes down this way. But that toe comes out roughly 13 feet. Now, we just measured it with a tape measure and eyeball. So see, that's the other problem. There's no topographical map for us to look at now, especially considering putting in a retaining wall. I'm guessing when you come in 5 feet from the property line and coming in towards the house, the top of that cut where they're going to start digging is going to be in the neighborhood of 7-8 feet possibly. Without a topographical map, it's hard to tell. Might be 6 or 7 feet. It's hard to tell. I'm just starting to do a quick drawing and I ran out. But that's a huge concern because I don't know. I heard that anything over 4 feet is 4 feet permissible without a permit, or you have to get a permit anyway, but over 4 feet, does it become a variance, or I don't know. But we're very concerned about digging down 5, 6, 7, 8, well, probably not 8, 7 feet straight down to put a retaining wall. And this is just a big sand hill. We're afraid of sand coming down from that. There's one big tree, big Doug fir, that isn't shown on this drawing, but it's at the southwest corner on the next property to the south. And I'm guessing it's 4 or 5 feet over, not very far over, and very close to the property line. So that's one huge concern of ours. We're afraid it's going to erode away, and I mean, it's going to keep falling, and it's going to disturb and somehow affect our lot, and maybe even the lot to the south of that, Jeff Harrison's lot. So it seems like a topographical map is almost a must to really understand, or an engineer drawing to show exactly what the height of the wall is going to be. The other change the subject just a little bit. The other thing we wanted to ask is that, first of all, the 2 trees that he mentioned, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. The existing trees, I agree, those things are the one that are shown on this drawing are not very good trees. They're covered with ivy. They probably should come out. Good. But we have not seen a landscape plan. We've seen lots of pictures of plants and stuff, but we still don't see a landscape plan. And probably the last question is that if a wall is built of some sort, is it going to be fenced? Because it's going to be tall and dangerous for anybody that might be coming from our property, just even walking that way, you know, to a straight down fall. And would the wall wrap around, maybe mention, honestly, I have a really hard time hearing it here. I have a hearing issue, and without microphones, I'm really having a difficult time. But maybe address that. Maybe I don't know if there's like wing walls on this. Yeah, on this, you know, to either side, and that wouldn't bother me one way or the other. I just would like to know. But again, our biggest concern is the moving that much sand away straight down and putting a retaining wall. we think it's gonna drastically affect neighboring lots. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other opponents wish to speak?
I'm Bill Ellis, address 5811 Bay Point Drive, Lake Oswego. We're the neighbor across large 539. And there's a couple concerns from my end. Is it being a duplex? The parking showed end to end, four spaces end to end, 2 and 2. And I guess getting the right depth for those parking stalls, I don't, there's a plan, is it concrete that you?
Grasscrete,
Grasscrete,
yes.
the blocks with the
Yes,
seed?
yes,
Yeah.
we don't have too much coverage yet for the.
Yeah, so from my standpoint, the presence on Larch Street, it'd be nice to see a landscape plan that incorporates all that the hard surface. The Grasscrete is okay, but you can see it 2 doors down from me that it's hard to really take off down here. I mean, it doesn't look like grass, just with the wear and the moisture. And also the depth of the stalls, little concern that I think you show 18 feet, 36 total. And you're right on large, so without a plan, I think the structure needs to move maybe even farther back to incorporate a decent landscape design from the large standpoint with the parking stalls. And also probably a section through the property that would show the height of the retaining wall, because part of the problem is when you establish the finished floor of the house and you get back to the west side, it'll show the height required for that retaining wall. And you also have to remember during construction that you're going to be not only the difference in grade that Phil discussed, but during construction, you're going to be an additional foot of rock under the footing. Depending on the height of the wall, it might even be could be as much as a 16-inch thick footing. So you're probably 2 or 3 feet during construction that you're going to be digging down
16 inches.
in addition to the finished grade. So without a finished grade plan to address the back and the impact of the slope, and depending on if you do it in the winter time or the summertime and the effect of the erosion, and considering that and the front landscape design and just to make it look nice, selfishly because they're across the street, I think it's important to kind of incorporate not just photos of plants, but how what the lot area coverage is from a floor area ratio and a landscape percentage. There's just there's not enough info yet to see everything together in a composite view. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Been nice if we would have had all of this information in advance. Okay, any other opponents wish to speak? Yes.
Diane Amos, PO Box 494, Cameron. You received two of my letters and they're as explicit as I could make them. And so I don't need to repeat any of that about the steep slope and the problem of undermining. But I would like to note that on the survey, it said that there's an alder tree on the northwest corner. And actually, there may be, if it's so crowded with vegetation, there could be lots of things, but there's a huge cherry tree, very tall. It's never been pruned. It's never been taken care of. It has blossoms in the spring and it bears fruit. But it's full of a ball of ivy that if the ivy isn't totally taken out, it is leaning toward the east. So any building would be endangered by that. So there are lots of Japanese quince, which moves along on suckers. And I know there's a wild rose, and it's just crowded with stuff holding that bank up. And I suppose the landscape plan could incorporate some of these things, but we haven't seen any actual plan. We've seen some plans. Another thing to consider when you're planting is that this is a major elk run. One of the photos that we incorporated showed the way the elk run up the hill, just practically straight up, and the sand goes down. And I think the rhododendron was a good idea because I found that the elk aren't as hungry for rhododendron as they are for others. But the site needs to be cleared of ivy and blackberries, and until we see a specific design, I really can't see how you can pass a landscaping plan. So I would urge you to deny the proposal until you have good information and know exactly what's going to be there in order to be landscaped. So I thank you very much for your attention to this, and I'm very grateful that you've continued the hearing so that we can discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? The additional staff response?
No, I don't know if we wanted any other from the applicant.
Pardon?
The opportunity for the applicant to respond if you wanted to. Staff has no more comments.
Okay, any additional statement from the applicant?
So we do have a plan, and like I said, it was determined on what was going to be needed from the geotech engineer, from the engineer, and from the architect on how the wall was going to be built. On the plan, what we have is the wall across the west side at 5 feet. And then we have 4-foot returns for stability. If it's found necessary to put up a fence for safety, that could be done. It was kind of in our original plan to put a fence, but it didn't seem like it was necessary because I didn't think anyone would be walking behind our property down unless it's elk. And as far as the replanting, we did consider that, but we'll be taking what it's just speaking about out and replacing it with the retaining wall. So there wouldn't be a need for those plants to stabilize that portion of the soil because that's what the engineered wall would be for. So, but as far as landscaping in the front, we could come up with a more comprehensive visual aid for the rest of the lot that was contingent on that. But we took the rhododendron out because without retaining. And the behind, from the retaining wall to the back of the house would be grass for a backyard area. Stability is provided by the retaining wall itself, which will be engineered. and designed by an architect and go through Geo.
One of the things that, one of the other presenters brought up was the elevation, difference between where the house is or where you plan to have your grade and this hillside.
Okay,
It
so
looks like there's about 10 feet there when I look at your drawing. So I'm wondering about a 5 foot.
yeah, so
Anymore.
it's like he was saying when Bill was saying when he was up here, the west side kind of starts like this, a little bit lower, and then it kind of gradually gets up. I
Right.
don't think it's as severe as what was said, because we have the property next door, and there's a retaining wall with that property. We're back to within a couple of feet of that retaining wall is where our retaining wall will sit. They'll almost join together. And the tree that he was referring to is actually a little further, which is like an older tree, a larger tree. And we won't be disturbing anything around that. The other thing that was talked about with the architect is that the retaining wall doesn't necessarily have to go the whole distance. If the geotech and the engineer and the architect find that the wall starts having to step up and get taller, what we would do is we would end it at the corner of the back corner of the house and then leave what's there now there. So we wouldn't be changing any of that.
Your drawing from CKI Land Surveying shows that there's 9.68 feet on the south side and 4.5 feet on the north side. This bank is higher than your expected
That's at 15 feet, right?
15 feet.
Yeah, we're going back 10 feet, so the property line's at 15, we're gonna be.
Even say, I mean, we don't know what the slope is because we don't have topos, but just on, say it's maybe 7 feet. Well, it's still probably higher than your 5 foot wall.
The 5 foot wall would start at average grade. The footing would be underneath that, which
Sure.
is I think what you're talking
No. No, your embankment is probably based, I mean, in the absence of a topo, we have to kind of guess, and I'm giving you benefit of the doubt, probably 7 feet. So your 5 foot wall is not going to do it. And on the other side, I'd say probably is 4 feet on the north side.
Yeah, on the north side. I don't think it goes up that far when we were out there measuring it off the other day, but
But this is CKI and land surveying. We have to go on their official drawing you gave us.
I can have them come out and do a topography again as well.
Anyway, it looks like 5 feet is going to be marginal, at least.
Okay.
And another thing that I wonder about is if that bank starts sloughing off, if maybe you don't need even more height to accommodate the additional debris that's going to be piling up against your wall.
Additional debris from
From the hillside,
the hillside.
because the hillside is collapsing now. It's coming down to your wall.
Yeah, it didn't seem that way from the looks of it the other day, but like I said, we can provide topography report. To get the elevations, right, and find out exact.
It seems like your 5 foot wall, just based on what you've given us, your 5 foot wall is just too short.
Well, we can look into it. I mean, what we were trying to do was avoid having it all designed before it was approved in that way, because we'll have to go out and spend the money on all the engineering first, and then after we do that, come get approval. And then if you guys were to change your mind about something, I'd have to have it.
So it appears that just from your drawing that you need a higher wall than you're suggesting. And so the geotech engineer must not really have looked at it very closely.
Well, we'll have him back out to check at them. And see if we can develop calculations and get the exact height and design on the wall. And I'll call for a topo on it as well.
Seems to me that we probably need, at a minimum, a topographical mapping of
Okay.
the site and at least a schematic design for the retaining wall, which this is not.
Okay.
And are we able to continue this again or not?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because, and maybe I don't know if you want me to address it now while the hearing's open or what, when we close it, but we're 60 days in. And so I was going to, encourage strongly that the board make some type of decision this evening. Because should there be any appeals, that's about another 60 days worth of information. So if we continued it and someone appealed, we'd be well over the 120. So staff would be encouraging the board to make some type of decision to approve or deny this evening. Especially since the applicant was informed last time of some of the information he needed to provide and it got provided at the last minute.
I had one more question before we do that. We heard from some of the presenters that there's more shrubs and trees on this lot than you're showing right now. So you're planning to remove stuff that's not shown here. And we usually are looking at whatever's on the lot and at least thinking about that, so.
Planning on removing, you mean across the west?
Well, there was a cherry tree and there's some other trees that were mentioned. Are they really there?
The only trees that I know are the ones that are
These two.
those two. There is one that's up front on the east property line, but we don't plan on removing those. We weren't,
Okay,
there's a shrub and a tree there. But, for the sake of not having to remove the tree, we weren't planning on doing anything with it.
so that's not on your landscape plan or on your.
No, those are not noted on the landscape. But I can do a more comprehensive landscape plan if that's.
I tend to favor continuing this. And I know that.
I would recommend making a decision because if it gets appealed, we're going to not meet the 120 days.
The problem is we haven't seen any sign that our city council does anything but approve an appeal. And so, I mean, this is, some of this stuff is rather serious here. And there are, a number of neighbors opposed, so I'm saying we should give them one more chance.
Here's my take on that, and you guys can make the decision you want. I would strongly encourage you not to do that. But that being said, if you don't have the information that you need in order to make a decision, then the proper thing might be to deny the request, if that's the feeling. Because like I said, with the continuance, we're already 60 days in, we're gonna go beyond the 120. And so I would strongly not encourage another continuance. The applicant was made aware at the last meeting, the type of information that needed to be provided. It was provided late. If you don't feel comfortable with the information that's provided, you should take that into your consideration of approval or denial. But I would strongly recommend that you do not continue this.
That's a good question.
We're not, right now, we're talking to the applicant. We had closed for the opponents and proponents, so that would be up to the chairperson.
Are you finished with what you had to
Yeah,
add?
I'd like to hear any other questions. So if we do have a continuance, I can address those concerns. Landscaping plan. So.
I'll let you go. Do you prefer denial?
Well, I guess I'm not really familiar with the process. If there's a continuance, what's the 120 days?
The 120 days is, the city has 120 days to act on applications, as far as development permits. So, I shouldn't say that. If thank you for asking that question. If the applicant is willing to extend the 120-day clock, say an additional 30 days in order to keep it at that 60, that would be acceptable. That if they were to say, hey, we're good to extend this another 30 so that we can provide this information, then that clock extends another 30 days, then I don't see an issue with it. But if the applicant is not willing to do that, I would strongly suggest that you not continue that.
How much time do you need?
I have another question. So if it's denied, then does that mean we pay again and just,
That's correct. You would have to provide the information that we've requested previously.
the reason this came in late is it was very difficult to find a surveyor to come out at all. We just barely got.
Right, but that was information that was required at the very beginning.
Sorry, at the,
Days. That information should have been part of the original submission.
original plan, yeah.
Right,
Yeah, no.
do that.
He was 6 weeks out.
I understand that.
I understand.
You understand what happened because of it.
Yeah, no, I do. No, I'd be fine with,
Extending.
extending.
Do you think, what type of time frame is a 30 or 60 day? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is if we don't have enough information next time.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same thing. What makes the most sense to you? Do you need 30? Do you need 60 to provide some of this information that's been discussed this evening?
It would be a time crunch if I only had 30 more days to get a guy out there in time to do the topography.
Sure.
I think I could get the landscaping portion of it done, but the topography, those guys are pretty booked out.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
It sounds to me like it would be worthwhile to do 60 days because you need to get the work done. Then you need to get it to us for us to review and get it to the board in a timely fashion so that they can review this, getting it to us this evening.
Yeah.
To see what's happening.
Yeah, like I said.
And so my suggestion would be, if you're going to continue it, that we ask the applicant both in verbally today and then providing documentation in an email to us tomorrow that they're willing to extend the 60 days. I could send an email to you and we would just go back and forth. And I think that would be, if you're going to continue it, the right way of handling it.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, that's great because that will give me plenty of time to get the topography sorted out and get a solid
Right.
landscaping plan.
And then, so we can talk, and then you heard a number of the concerns, so, make sure you're getting that information that properly.
I could hear the question.
Sure. So that, we haven't, closed it, or I guess with the applicant saying they're willing to do the additional 60, the board may want to consider continuing this with the condition that the applicant provides staff that continuance documentation tomorrow.
Okay, what he said.
And do we want to have a continuance to a date
Oh,
certain?
yes. Could we, if you're willing to do 60 days, why don't we set this for the September, October, could we find out?
October would be 17th.
October 17th would be the continuance date. So that way we don't have to re-notice and do everything like that. So I would suggest that the continuance be until October 17th, which would be our next, or 2 regularly scheduled meetings from today.
Okay. Anybody care to move that we do that?
I would move that we continue the application to the October 17th meeting, conditional upon planning receiving written confirmation of the agreement to extend 60 days by applicant.
Yep.
Those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? So what we would need specifically, or what I would want specifically, is a topographic survey and a design, at least a schematic design for the retaining wall.
And a survey and a landscape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those three things would be,
Those three things, okay, yeah, and then I'll have 60 days, so I won't be back until the 17th of October.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Could I comment real quick? Just so the public's aware, so that you wouldn't receive another notice in the paper because of the continuance. You just need to understand that the next time this is coming back is on October 17th will be the next time that the board hears this matter. Just so everyone's clear, there won't be a notice letter in the paper that you receive to let you know. So you can always check with us, or you can check online to just check our agendas.
Where's the information compiled that was discussed tonight?
One of the things that you can take a look at is you can take a look at it on your website if you want. My name is Steve Sokolowski, and you could contact me tomorrow, and I could also talk to you in terms of how I could get that to you. All right.
I want to hear from the other.
Would you still like to make a statement about something, ma'am?
No, my question was about the 120-day process.
Okay, we're done with that one. Moving on to DRB 24-D.
Last agenda item. Is it possible to have some discussion, further discussion on this?
On the previous one that
Yeah.
just continued.
I just wanted to make the comment that this is a duplex and it seems to be providing housing, which is what is needed. And so I just want to also say that there are houses on both sides of this, seemingly flat lot. So I hate to be too much of a stickler, and it starts getting into the toe of the dune and it's gonna come down. I believe that the building inspector and the geotechnic report are gonna satisfy anything that might come from that, so that they'll be building something that dune won't slide down. But I hate to hold it up too much just for, something that's needed, and it's a empty lot. And they have the right to build on it, and a duplex is gonna provide housing, so. I mean, I understand that there's concern, but I want to make sure that it's not just somebody doesn't want to have a house right next to theirs. So.
That's not the impression I've been getting, but.
Far as.
one of the questions I had before we moved for the continuance, so that's done, but could we have created some optionality so that if he got his packet together by the September meeting, would come then and we could, or
I think, could I interrupt? I'm sorry.
that's a question. Yeah.
I think that's why I want to ask him the 30 to 60, because we've had a hard time getting the information just in the timeframes that we've required. So that's why I asked the 30 to 60, just to see. I didn't want to slow it down by any means, but it was more of, if we are it was either we approve or deny, or we continue and allow him to get some of the information. So I think the 60, and he kind of hinted to the 60 that he probably needed that to get the people, to get the documentation in that he needed. So that was the only reason why I suggested the 60.
Yeah, I hear you. I too am sensitive to Board Member Duber's concern that let's get these things going as fast as we can.
Yeah, and so the importance of setting a date specific is because there's certain things you have to do notice wise and things like that. So if you continue it to a date certain, that's why we chose the 60 and the days working with him, just so we didn't have to do a lot of that stuff again.
Got it. Okay, onward.
So what did I misunderstand?
I don't think you misunderstood. I wasn't saying you did.
No, I thought Chair said it. Misunderstood. You didn't get,
I didn't get the feeling that anybody's opposing it being a duplex.
that's not what I was saying.
Oh.
But it just seemed that it's going through a lot of scrutiny, which as far as the geotech report and the wall is beyond at least what I could say I know about. So that's where I'm trusting, as Steve mentioned, that the building inspector will be looking at that. The geotech report will reflect those concerns and that they'll build it so that it's safe.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So that's, I wasn't trying to say that there was, trying to say that they're for a duplex.
Okay. Going to be 24-20, which is Stephen Pamela Gaddis application for alteration of a mixed use building. Subject property located at West Jackson Street in a residential medium density R2 zone. Application will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 17.44. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Design Review Board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias? Has any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
Site visit.
Site visit. Okay, there a presentation by the applicant.
With the staff report.
Staff report.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Hang on 1 second.
on hold.
Yeah.
We need the staff report.
All right.
Thank you. I'll try to make this brief. The application is for an after-the-fact review of exterior alterations to a mixed-use structure consisting of 1 residential unit and 2 hotel units. The property is zoned residential medium density R2, and the mixed use is a pre-existing nonconformity. On October 20th, 2023, the city of Cannon Beach issued a violation notice regarding a structural alteration for which a building permit had not been issued. This alteration includes the enclosure of both upper and lower level decks on the western facade of the residential portion of the structure and conversion of those areas into habitable space. As this is a mixed-use building consisting of both residential and commercial units, design review is required before the property owner may apply for a building permit. Conditions showing both before and after alterations are included in the staff report. The approval criteria are detailed in the design review standards in chapter 1744 of the municipal code. The first of those is 1744-080, the site design criteria. And the staff comment is that the subject property is a 7,500 square foot lot consisting, 7,500 square foot tax lot, consisting of lots 8 and 9 of block 10 of the Elk Creek Park subdivision. The mixed use structure conforms to the 15-foot front yard setback and the 5-foot side yard setbacks. It does not conform to the 15-foot rear yard setback. However, no work undertaken by the applicant expanded this nonconformity. Based on the information provided in Exhibit A5, the Community Development Department has calculated lot coverage as 62%. The maximum lot coverage allowed in the R2 zone is 50%. These calculations are based on the figure included in the staff report. Proposed condition of approval number 1 will require the applicant to obtain a variance regarding the lot coverage requirements. Moving into The second criteria of approval in 1744-090, the architectural design evaluation criteria. A moment while I bring up the before and after images of the structure. Staff comment is the work undertaken by the applicant is the infill of two previously open covered decks on the first and second floors of the western facade of the structure. An uncovered open deck is present on the second floor. The image currently on the screen shows the before operation image, and the image at present is the conditions after the modification was made. An area measuring 8 by 29 feet or 232 square feet was filled in on the first floor, and an area of 6 by 29 feet, 174 feet on the upper. These measurements are shown in the figure included in the staff report. Prior to the renovation, the structure had a total square footage of 2,813 square feet as per Clatsop County Assessor's records. This equated to a floor area ratio of 0.37. The expanded structure has a total square footage of 3,219 square feet, which equates to a floor area ratio of 0.42. The maximum allowable floor area ratio for the R2 zone is 0.6. The expanded area is clad in cedar shake siding and uses white trimmed windows and doors, which are consistent with existing features in the unaltered portions of the building. As schematics provided to the city are not sufficient for building permit review, proposed condition of approval number 2 requires as-built plans to be provided to the city prior to the issuance of a building permit. Moving into the third criteria of approval found in 1744-100, the landscape design evaluation criteria. The staff comment is that landscaping information is provided in Exhibit A8. No significant changes to on-site landscaping are known to have occurred, as the work consisted of the infill of existing covered decks. No information has been provided by the applicant regarding exterior lighting fixtures on the expanded area, and this is applicable to item L. The lighting fixtures and level of illumination are compatible with the landscape design. The level of illumination produced enhances the overall project and does not cast glare on adjacent property or into the night sky. Proposed condition of approval number 3 will require the applicant to include information about lighting fixtures with a building permit application. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, presentation by the applicant. Yes.
My name is Mike Morgan, PO Box 132, Cannon Beach. This is Pamela and Steve Gaddis at the address. I don't know your address.
188 West Jackson Street, Cannon Beach.
So this, we're talking here really about the aesthetics of the expansion, not about lack of permits nor the lot coverage or the floor area ratio. This is strictly an aesthetic decision on your part, as you're aware of. In my opinion, the expansion into the decks on both the upstairs and downstairs is a vast improvement over the original design. And it was undertaken in good faith initially because of the rot that was discovered on the front. The house is only 50 feet from the ocean front. And you can imagine the pounding it's taken over 27 years. So there were mistakes made in terms of
permits, but that's not what we're here about. I think the use of the materials that, you know, there's no change to the landscape. There's no change to the site design. The only change is the expansion into the facade of the building over pre-existing patio decks and patios. So I'm hoping that we can focus strictly on those. And as you can see, Robert, can you put those pictures back up, maybe side by side?
I don't know if I have a side-by-side option.
As you can see from the before and after, the building had the design feature on the top with the braces, and those have been taken away. We'll see the new one, and those are replaced by a solid wall covered with cedar shingles that match, plus the new surround or on the deck that match the rest of the house and the rest of the neighborhood. And the sliding glass windows are clad. I mean, they're surrounded by white wood trim. So from my aesthetic point of view, I think it is an improvement over the original design. The curious thing about this is that this is their home. It's not part of the motel. They do have 2 rental units as you can see in the packet. They've got 2 rental units to the north of the building that predate the building by decades, I think. And the curious thing about it is that if the house that was built 27 years ago had been 6 inches away from the rental units, there would be no need for design review. But the fact that it's adjoining those two older units is the reason that we're here. But the landscaping is quite lush. If you visited the site, and the building, I think, has been enhanced by the expansion. But once again, you know, we're only looking at the aesthetic appeal, and I think it meets your criteria completely. I also should note that when the building was built 27 years ago, the city did not require a design review board application. That, I mean, for whatever reason, I don't know who the planner was at that time, but it was built. It was a cabin there. It was scraped clean. The building was built right up against the two rental units, and it was considered a single family house, and it is a single family house today. So I would urge the commission to approve the design. I'll answer any questions.
Even though it's probably not in our, like you say, in our purview, I'm curious as to how this happened, how it was built without permits. The contractor didn't know he needed a permit.
It's not really relevant, Mr. Chairman. I mean, it was a mistake, you know, as Nixon said, mistakes were made. And, you know,
You, Mike, should know more than anyone what permits are needed when you're building or doing any sort of remodel or enclosure. And I hope that you didn't consult your nice clients here to forego the building permit or design review process just because it's not really relevant.
I met these folks a week ago.
Oh,
So but again, you are the design review board. We're not talking about permits, not talking about engineering, structural aspects. We're simply here to present the design, which is already in place. And they're perfectly capable of paying triple, double or triple permit fees for an after the fact permit. And, you know, it was a mistake. So, but I think, you know, your job is to evaluate the appearance of the building.
thank you.
So we can't ask them to tear it down, I guess.
I don't have a problem with the design. I don't, you know.
I like it, but
Yeah, it would have passed if it had to come to us through the permitting process, I'm sure.
Yeah, just realizing that there was no permit obtained. I mean, we at least need to satisfy our curiosity as to how has it been handled with.
Yeah, I could answer that question. I mean, procedurally, basically what happened was we ended up getting a complaint, you know, and after the fact and seeing that it had gotten as far as it got, I can't explain to you, you know, how exactly that happened. But once we got there, a letter was sent in October actually of last year saying you're in violation, you have to do that. The reason why it took some time was the applicants had worked with a number of different people, so they understood they needed to get applications in. So staff was trying to work with them in terms of allowing some time to take place, yet still needing to get done. And so, you know, we went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Another letter was written saying, hey, we've given you a long time. They talked to Mike, we met again, they got the information in. And so it was something that happened and we took the approach of what we did in terms of sending letters, meeting, trying to get it to you, and it's here now.
So there would normally be no penalties or anything. It's just a matter of catching up.
There will probably be some penalty fees in terms of doing work without a permit. So yes, from that perspective, there will be.
But we don't have any added responsibility.
No.
okay, anything else?
Any other questions? Would you like to say something, Em or Steve?
I'm usually like an open book and we're all here for the same reason. I appreciate you all being here. And we're all here for the same reason because we do care about Cannon Beach and it's my full-time home that I've lived here for many years. We're very hands-on people. We have a small business and we do most everything ourselves. So this part just in a nutshell, but anyway.
Thank you.
And you should know that they have had a complete structural engineering completed by a structural engineer that the building official will be evaluating. And so that will take care of the building aspect. They also will be applying for a variance. I mean, if you approve the application, they'll be applying for a variance to the lot coverage requirement. The building meets the FAR, the floor area ratio by a long shot. So that's not an issue. So it's just it's total lot coverage.
Okay, thank you. Is there a presentation by any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Okay. Any additional correspondence? No. Close the hearing and
I don't know if the applicants had anything else they wanted to add or if they're done.
We're,
I had a question. There was a letter, I think, that addressed something about the lighting.
Oh, I have some lighting that I can show you. This is all under, the lighting goes under all of the eaves. So nothing is on a wall that goes straight up. So it's all under. But I do have pictured lighting. Okay. Here's pictures and here's the actual light itself. If you look, we just took one down so you can.
So low voltage.
It's a low voltage.
Yeah.
I also have just put in something to make sure the light doesn't even come out as much as it normally would. So that's around the sides and it's all under eaves, but.
Yeah.
Pass it around as well.
I think just showing it, that'll give everyone recessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Recess or surface mounted?
It's a surface.
Surface.
And I do have a close-up picture of how it would look on the walls. So,
Do you know which light specifically that this letter was referring to? It's something about a light. Remember? Maybe I don't know if it was in my packet or I saw it after through email.
that was the third requirement of the staff report. You mean, why is the lighting being shown?
No, there was a letter from a neighbor, I thought, that mentioned the lighting being on at night and that he thought it might not meet our dark sky ordinance.
Okay.
It may have not made it into my hard copy, and so it's on email and I don't have access to it. Anyway, I guess that would be maybe a condition of our approval.
Yeah, and not only that, I think, some of the conditions that we had did speak to that.
Okay. That's I'll have for the applicant.
talking about this letter from Richard Bertoliati.
Yes, that's it. Yes, thank you. Yes.
I don't know if anyone has anything else, but if you want, you could close the hearing if you want to.
Okay, let's close the public hearing and move to considerations.
Just a question from staff, for staff. Mr. Morgan has asserted that our job is to essentially approve the look of what was done. I think we have to do site, architectural and landscape. It looks like from the packet. But is that consistent with your interpretation of our job?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that this is you know, it's out.
Out of the box, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we're doing something after the fact. There's no question around it. I mean, so is it a part of it? Of course it is. I mean, how can it not be? That being said, we're here in essence trying to look at it as though it would be coming to you for the first time. And then penalties and things like that, like I said, would be done as far as, right. So, it's part of it, but I do think it would be a good idea to try to look at it from our criteria perspective.
Well, I would agree that it's an attractive design. And we likely would have approved it if it had been submitted in due course. And it doesn't, there's not really anything to speak to relative to site and landscape, but it sounds to me like we could make motions to approve all three.
Is there something in that letter, Dave, that you saw that talked about the lighting so we can let these nice people know what the concern was?
Concern
They
was
might have already addressed it. I don't know.
outside light fixture meet dark sky standards. And they also have outdoor string lights on periodically. And now have a blue colored light late at night in front of the motel units that do not meet design review standards.
So it's something that we can take a look at it and just something to be just big down, take a look at where, timing wise, and if something's too bright, just, fixture wise or whatever. So, I don't know if anyone else has, but if you could take a look at that stuff, please do. And then if it was an issue, then we could address it.
Yeah. Maybe Mr. Bertoli would be willing to just, it's not that big a deal, bring in some cookies or something and say.
It's existing, so you can go ahead and look at it and see what it looks like.
Yeah.
It sounds like the lights that were submitted tonight are on the overhang or on the vertical wall.
Under the eaves.
They're on the wall. They're on the wall and then there's an overhang.
According to.
There was a picture
There should be a picture that's
According to the.
around.
Mounted.
mounted under.
Got it.
So the,
So I mean, it's not clear that that would be a dark sky problem.
And he went that route just for saving electrical costs.
with lighting?
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me answer. The old style ones were always like shorting out and, they were the regular old bulbs that use a lot more electricity and they were a lot brighter.
Mhm.
And these are low voltage LEDs and they put out hardly any light at all.
Just curious why he went that route rather than you're doing all this nice enclosure and decided not to do any electrical work for outdoor lighting.
with that aesthetically, I thought it looked
We were
real
just
nice.
replacing the old ones that were there.
The old ones were pretty, they're very old, kind of few. So looking for something that really tied in and looked beachy. So this was what I came up after a lot of looking.
All right.
Okay. So. My motion to approve the site plan would include a condition that applicant obtain a variance for lot coverage.
There were three of them, right?
Correct. There are 3 proposed on the final pages.
I mean, do we have to have that condition that's going to happen?
I think we'd like to see it in there.
Okay.
You see the proposed conditions for approval in the F report.
Do you need us to read those out at all? They're on the last page 8 of the staff report. The there were three proposed conditions of approval. We can either read those or if you have them.
I've got it.
Okay.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the site plan
With condition?
with the
And
condition.
were you gonna do that?
I can do that, yeah.
Yeah.
So I will move to approve the site plan with conditions that the variance will be,
But the lot coverage is through planning commission variance or something like that. Is it in there?
sorry,
What do we
get
need?
to it.
Yeah.
What's the specific condition you wish?
I think if you took a look at page 8, and if you want me to read it, I could read them, but those were what we are proposing.
Oh, I see them here, yeah.
Oh,
They're under the motion to landscape plan. They're under there that talk about the proposed conditions of approval.
Okay.
Maybe those and you.
Okay.
oh,
So the motion would be to approve as presented with the condition that the applicant obtains a variance to lot coverage requirements prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Yes.
Second,
That one.
second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, a motion to approve the architectural design.
I'll move to approve the architectural design.
With the condition of 2.
with condition number 2.
I think that just pertains to site, doesn't it?
No, that's as built.
Yeah, go ahead. However we do it, we'd suggest that all three of them get in there some fashion.
Let's see. Condition, the condition that the,
Could we instead just approve the motions as written, including the
I think so. I think you could move to approve the site plan, landscaping and architecture, subject to the 3 conditions of approval.
there we go.
Okay. We have a motion to do that.
I make the motion that Stephen just said.
It's getting late, isn't it?
Motion to approve architectural, landscaping and site design with the 3 conditions mentioned, which are the applicant obtains a variance for lot coverage. The applicant provides as-built plans of the renovated area prior to issuance building permit, and the applicant provides information regarding make, model, and illumination output of the exterior light fixtures. I think we already have that, so. We skip number 3 and let's do the first 2.
With that, makes sense. Yeah. I think we're good with the lighting.
Okay.
So
That was a motion. Is there a second?
am I allowed to, procedurally, am I allowed to make motions or not?
Just repeating my motion, which was to follow Stephen.
Yeah.
You weren't making the motion, you were just repeating it.
Yeah.
I will second Harvey's.
Okay. Those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Oh,
All right.
okay. I have a question for staff. Immediately to the west of their property, there's a very much under construction, like at least multiple unit,
Yeah,
some kind.
yes.
It's a duplex.
That's a duplex we approved like last year. And they're just rebuild it, yeah.
I was just wondering if it had been approved.
Yep. I think they just may have gotten close to the 1 year mark.
Thank you for making and giving us an easy one for a change.
We tried, come on now.
So I'd like to be able to give a good answer.
One last item,
Bit of the order?
no.
Oh.
Motion for the chair to sign the appropriate.
I'll make a motion for the chair to sign the appropriate orders.
In favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, now we're at good of the order.
Just a quick, Parks meeting this morning, it was brought up, that they made, there's some members or some pickleball tennis players that, are gonna request a defibrillator be put at the tennis courts. And the Parks Committee, I think is gonna defer it or, deferred it to, DRB. So just saying that might come under, and, yeah, Mike Morgan this morning, and Randy Neal.
Okay.
And I don't know, my thoughts are that, you know, if you're gonna put that at, I would be nervous, you know, because I don't know how to use one and what liability that might open up for the city because you're being active and, you know, just carry one if you need one, but that's just personally, but just to give you a heads up that might be coming to us for
I think that
reason.
the city would be protected by essentially the state's Good Samaritan.
Okay,
That we wouldn't have liability if somebody misused that as long as they were.
yeah. And I don't know about just having it outside, you know, if that's, I don't know anything about these contraptions.
I have one in my truck.
Yeah.
I've in our business. They are like more and more, the question is, why don't you have one?
Right.
And I mean, I
Just
can't imagine it has anything to do with Sun Review, but
Well, I was surprised too, but Jan, you were there, wasn't it? I mean, it seemed like the DRB and that's what Mike's, well, he was talking about the screens, but then how the Parks Committee isn't really going to be able to approve or deny a defibrillator being on the tennis courts. So that's where they thought.
So this may not even need to come. You see that white box in the corner there mounted to the wall?
Yeah.
That contains one. That is likely what would be going out to that site. So I don't know if anything like this would even need to come in front of us.
Yeah.
I can look at it a little bit more, but I would, just so you guys know, I would probably be recommending that something like that not come before us. I don't know if anyone has any issues, but that would I would be probably talking to them saying, I don't think we're the right place for it to come. That sounds to me like either
Public Works.
I don't know. I'll look into it at that.
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of Parks this morning for public.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
The cabinet has wood shapes.
Yeah. All right, I'll be sure.
I didn't want to bring.
Be sure to make one comment.
Yes.
Thanks for your questions on the 120. I didn't think about asking the applicant initially. I know there's some questions sometimes about the stuff going to council for appeals and things like that. But oftentimes, so what, just the 120 days, typically you see, we do a completeness letter that says the application's complete. And from the time that that's complete, we have 120 days to act on it. That's like all the actions from the initial application to appeals to anything. So that's where I was going initially, was if we don't feel we have enough information, and we've been a couple of meetings, it probably is time to make a decision. And if we don't feel comfortable with the information, that we might have to deny it. Unless, of course, like what we just ended up doing, so thank you for reminding me, is if the applicant is unwilling to provide that extension, then we need to take action. So I get what you're saying with council and different things, but whether it's plan commission, whether it's us, that clock is always ticking. And it's a procedural matter that should it go to, say, the land use board of they can also go to circuit court to say, hey, city, you haven't acted on our permit in a timely basis, so therefore we're asking for the approval.
We want to facilitate it as much as possible, and in this case, we were able to facilitate it.
Yes.
To their timing, fine.
Right, and so like I said, I didn't think about if they extended it initially, so I appreciate the question so that we could get to that point.
Well, it's not like
It sounds like that,
you all day.
on that particular the documentation, it wasn't evident at the beginning how incomplete it was.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you wouldn't have declared it complete when it was so incomplete.
Sure.
Okay.
For the good of the order, can we get whatever is sticky all over this counter cleared off?
I'll get right on that after the meeting.
You've add that to your job description, okay?
And you can't even slide anything across.
Sure.
Are we?
I think it's just at the chair.
Sure.
I think it's just that spot, Dave.